The ghost of the battlefield. The battlefield was quiet in the aftermath of war. Smoke curled up from the ruins of metal fortresses, the ground littered with fallen soldiers, both human and Valyrian. The air was thick with the scent of scorched earth and ozone from plasma weapon discharges. Amidst the wreckage, Commander Riven crawled to cover, pressing a hand against his bleeding side. The mission had been a disaster. His squad was supposed to infiltrate the Valyrian warbase and destroy their supply lines, but they had been ambushed. No one saw them coming. No one even heard them until it was too late. Because it was her. Sci-fi. They called her the Phantom Executioner. Stories of her brutality spread like wildfire through human ranks. She was more than just a soldier. She was a legend, a ghost on the battlefield, appearing and vanishing before anyone had the chance to react. No one who encountered her lived to tell the tale. Riven knew the moment she entered the fight. The Valyrian forces had been struggling against his squad, but the moment she arrived, the tide shifted. His soldiers fell one by one, their bodies dropping before they even knew what hit them. Riven had fought in dozens of battles, but he had never seen someone move the way she did. Now he was the last one standing. The sound of footsteps approached, light and deliberate. Riven clenched his jaw and raised his weapon, though his hands trembled from exhaustion. He barely had the strength to pull the trigger. A shadow loomed over him. She stood there, silhouetted against the flickering light of a burning warship. Her armor was sleek, obsidian black, lined with violet veins of energy pulsating like a living thing. Her face was hidden behind a battle mask, but her eyes, piercing silver, glowed through the visor. This was it. He would be just another name added to her list of kills. But she didn't strike. She merely stood there, gripping her energy blade, staring at him as if something about him confused her. "Do it," Riven hissed, forcing himself to sit up despite the pain. "Go ahead, finish the job." For a long moment she said nothing, then slowly her weapon lowered. Riven frowned. What was she waiting for? The battlefield was silent, save for the distant hum of retreating Valyrian ships. They had won. The warbase was secured. There was no reason to spare him. Yet she hesitated. The legend, the ghost of the battlefield, hesitated. The moment shattered when another Valyrian soldier appeared behind her. "Commander Sci-fi," the soldier called out, barely sparing Riven a glance. "We've secured the area. The general wants a full report." Sci-fi was quiet for another heartbeat. Then, without another word, she deactivated her energy blade and turned to her subordinate. "Take him," she ordered. Riven's breath hitched. That wasn't what he expected. Execution, yes. Immediate death, yes, but capture. The soldier hesitated. "Commander, why?" "Take him." Sci-fi's voice was sharp, cutting through the tension like a blade. The Valyrian soldier stiffened before nodding quickly. "Yes, Commander." Riven felt hands grab his arms, yanking him to his feet. He could barely stand, his knees buckling under his weight. He wasn't sure if it was blood loss or sheer shock. As they dragged him toward the Valyrian base, his eyes met Sci-fi's once more. She wasn't looking at him with hatred. She wasn't looking at him like an enemy. She was looking at him like a question that had yet to be answered. And for the first time, he saw doubt in the most feared alien in the galaxy. The warrior's dilemma. The prison cell was cold, sterile, and eerily quiet. Riven sat on the metal bench, his wrists bound with energy cuffs that prevented him from making any sudden movements. The dull hum of alien machinery filled the air, and the walls pulsed with faint blue energy, an unmistakable reminder that escape was impossible. He had been here for days, or was it weeks? Time had blurred into a haze of pain, exhaustion, and unanswered questions. Why had she spared him? Why had the most feared warrior of the Valyrian Empire, a soldier with an unshakable reputation, chosen to capture him instead of killing him? Riven wasn't naive. He knew he was a prisoner of war. He expected torture, interrogation, maybe even a public execution. But none of that had happened. Instead, he had been left alone, provided with just enough food and medical attention to keep him alive. And the strangest part, Sci-fi kept visiting him. She never said much, at least not at first. She would stand outside his cell, her silver eyes studying him, as if trying to figure out some impossible puzzle. And now she was here again. The heavy door slid open with a quiet hiss. Sci-fi stepped inside, her tall, armored figure casting a long shadow across the room. Without her battle mask, Riven could see her face fully, sharp features, dark violet markings running along her temples, and those cold, unreadable eyes. She didn't look like a monster. She looked conflicted. Riven leaned back against the wall, crossing his arms as best as he could with the restraints. Back again? I have to admit I'm starting to feel special. Sci-fi ignored his sarcasm. You are a soldier. Riven raised an eyebrow, observant. She tilted her head slightly. You have fought in many battles. You have killed my kind before. It wasn't a question. Riven's jaw tightened. Yeah. You do not seem like someone who enjoys killing. Riven scoffed, do you? Sci-fi hesitated. That was new. The Phantom Executioner, the woman whose name sent shivers down the spines of human soldiers, the ghost of the battlefield. She hesitated. I fight for my people, she finally said, voice even controlled. It is my duty. Riven gave a humorless laugh. You didn't answer the question. Silence. Sci-fi turned away, her gaze distant. There is a saying among my kind, she said. Those who hesitate in battle do not live to regret it. And yet you hesitated with me. She stiffened. Riven leaned forward slightly. Why? She didn't respond. But he could see it, the flicker of doubt in her expression, the crack in the unshakable warrior's exterior. Something was changing in her. And for the first time, Riven realized something. She wasn't just questioning him. She was questioning herself. A fracture in loyalty. Sci-fi strode through the dimly lit halls of the Valyrian war base, her mind a storm of thoughts she couldn't silence. The echoes of boots on the polished metal floor reminded her of her rank, her duty, and the expectation that she would remain the warrior she had always been. But something had changed, and it had started the moment she spared the human. She didn't know why she had done it. She had fought humans her entire life, had been raised to see them as lesser, as dangerous creatures who would destroy her kind if given the chance. She had executed dozens, no, hundreds, without a second thought. So why was Riven different? Why did his defiant gaze haunt her even now? A voice interrupted her thoughts. Commander Sci-fi. She turned to see General Varthos standing at the end of the corridor, his imposing figure blocking her path. His armor gleamed under the artificial lights, and the deep scars on his face told of decades of war. She straightened. General. Walk with me. She fell into step beside him, her heart pounding slightly. Varthos wasted no time. I have reviewed your latest battle reports. His tone was measured, but there was an edge to it. I noticed something concerning. Sci-fi kept her expression neutral. Concerning. You let a human live. The words hit like a hammer, but she didn't flinch. He was captured for interrogation. Varthos glanced at her, his silver eyes sharp. That is not your way. She said nothing. He continued, the Empire does not require prisoners. We require dominance, fear. We do not take captives, Sci-fi. We eliminate threats before they become problems. Sci-fi clenched her jaw. Varthos studied her carefully. You are the Empire's deadliest warrior. You have never hesitated, and yet you spared him. Sci-fi forced herself to meet his gaze. I believed he could provide information. Varthos chuckled, a low, humorless sound. Is that what you believe, or is that what you are telling yourself? Sci-fi's hands clenched into fists. He leaned in slightly. I have heard whispers, Commander. Some of your soldiers, they say you have changed. Her stomach twisted. You have fought for the Empire your entire life, Varthos said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. But tell me, do you still fight for it, or are you beginning to fight against it? Sci-fi inhaled slowly. I fight for my people. Varthos nodded. Good. And yet, something in his expression told her that he didn't believe her. That night, Sci-fi did something she had never done before. She accessed the Forbidden Archives. The Empire kept records of every war, every battle, and every enemy they had crushed. But only the highest-ranking officials had access to the real history, the information the common soldier never saw. Her clearance granted her limited access, but what she found shook her to her core. The war hadn't started because of human aggression. It had started because of her own people. The Valyrian Empire had attacked first. They had invaded human colonies, destroyed settlements, and fabricated a false narrative to justify their war. And she had fought for it. Killed for it. She staggered back from the screen, her breath unsteady. The truth was a weight she wasn't prepared to carry. Everything she had believed in was a lie. And she was part of it. Back in the prison cell, Riven was lying on the metal bench when the door slid open. He expected another round of silence from sci-fi, another wordless stare before she left again. But this time, something was different. She stepped inside, closing the door behind her. Then, in a quiet voice, she said something that made his blood run cold. "You were right." Riven sat up slowly. "About what?" Sci-fi's silver eyes met his. "The war." He froze. She exhaled shakily, as if saying the words out loud made them real. "Everything I was told, everything I fought for, it was all a lie." Riven studied her carefully. "And what are you going to do about it?" A long pause. Then finally she whispered, "I don't know." The breaking point. The silence in the prison cell stretched between them, heavy and unspoken. Riven studied Sci-Fi's face carefully, taking in the barely visible tremor in her fingers, the tightness in her jaw. The infamous Phantom Executioner, the Valyrian Empire's most feared warrior, was doubting her cause. And doubt was dangerous. For both of them. Riven exhaled slowly. "You realize what this means, don't you?" Sci-Fi didn't look at him, but he saw the tension in her shoulders. "Yes. If they suspect even a hint of betrayal." "They already do," she interrupted. That made Riven pause. Sci-Fi finally turned to face him, her silver eyes dark with something that looked an awful lot like fear. "General Varthos is watching me. He knows I hesitated. He knows I've been questioning things." Riven shifted, leaning forward. "Then you need to make a choice, fast." Sci-Fi let out a bitter laugh. "You make it sound simple." "It is," Riven met her gaze. "You either stay loyal to a system built on lies or you fight for the truth. There's no in-between." Silence. For a moment, Riven thought she might walk away, that she might convince herself to forget everything she had seen and fall back into the role of the Empire's greatest soldier. Then she whispered something he never expected to hear. "I need your help." Riven blinked. "Come again." She straightened, her face hardening. "You're human. You know your people better than I ever will. If I'm going to expose the truth, I need to understand the other side of this war." Riven let out a low chuckle. "So let me get this straight. You kidnapped me, throw me in a cell, and now you want my help." Sci-Fi jaw tightened. "I could have killed you. And yet here we are." A flicker of irritation crossed her face, but it faded as quickly as it came. She took a slow breath, her voice steady when she spoke again. "I don't know how to undo this." Riven studied her carefully. This was it, the moment that would decide everything. If she was serious about turning against the Empire, she was putting herself in more danger than she probably realized. The Valyrians didn't tolerate traitors. They erased them. If Varthos even suspected what Sci-Fi was planning, she would be dead before she had the chance to act. And if he agreed to help her, well, then he was dead too. But something in her eyes, something raw and real, made him take the gamble. "I'll help you," he said. Sci-Fi nodded once. And just like that, the deadliest warrior of the Valyrian Empire and the captured human soldier had made a silent pact. A pact that could either change the course of history or get them both killed. Later that night, Sci-Fi walked through the war base, her heart hammering in her chest. She wasn't sure if it was fear or adrenaline, but the feeling was suffocating. Every step felt heavier, every passing soldier a potential enemy. She made her way to the restricted command center, her clearance granting her access past the security doors. The room was empty, just as she had hoped. Moving quickly, she accessed the Empire's war files, scanning through battle records, classified transmissions, and orders that had been buried under layers of secrecy. She needed proof, something undeniable, something she could show to her people to make them understand the truth. Her hands moved swiftly over the console, her mind racing as she searched. Then she found it. A hidden communication log. It was an order given by the Valyrian High Council before the war even began. The directive was clear: attack human colonies, wipe out settlements, and frame the humans as the aggressors. Sci-fi blood ran cold. This was it. This was the truth. She reached for a data chip, preparing to transfer the files. Step away from the console. The voice was sharp, cutting through the air like a blade. Sci-fi's stomach twisted as she turned slowly. General Varthos stood in the doorway. His silver eyes were unreadable, but the tension in his posture was unmistakable. I was wrong, he said quietly, but I see now you truly are lost. Sci-fi's hand hovered over her weapon. I have done nothing wrong. Varthos took a slow step forward. You have done everything wrong. A cold silence filled the room. Sci-fi had seconds to decide. She could fight. She could run. Or she could die. She made her choice. Without hesitation, she grabbed the data chip, slammed her fist into the control panel to trigger an emergency lockdown, and bolted. Alarms blared. Security doors slammed shut behind her. The chase had begun, and Sci-Fi had just declared war against her own people. The price of freedom. The war base erupted into chaos. Alarms blared through the halls, flashing red lights painting the cold metal corridors in an eerie glow. Soldiers stormed into position, weapons drawn, voices shouting orders as they hunted for the traitor. Sci-Fi sprinted through the corridors, her breath sharp and controlled. She could feel the heat of pursuit behind her, could hear the boots of Valyrian enforcers closing in. But she couldn't stop. Not now. Not when she finally had the truth in her hands. Clutching the data chip tightly, she pushed forward. She had memorized the base's layout over the years, knew its weaknesses. There was one way out, the emergency hangar. If she could reach it, she might have a chance. But getting there was another matter entirely. A squad of Valyrian soldiers appeared at the end of the corridor, weapons raised. There she is, take her down. Sci-Fi didn't hesitate. She launched forward, her movements a blur. The first soldier fired, she dodged, the plasma blast searing past her shoulder. In one swift motion, she grabbed the barrel of his weapon, yanked it down, and slammed her fist into his throat. He crumpled. The second soldier lunged. She twisted, grabbed his wrist, and snapped it backward. His weapon clattered to the floor as he screamed. The others hesitated for a fraction of a second. That was all she needed. She ran. Riven's gamble. Back in the prison cell, Riven sat on the bench, watching the flickering overhead lights as the alarms screamed around him. He had no idea what was happening, but he had a feeling it had everything to do with Sci-Fi. Moments later, the cell door hissed open. Riven tensed, then his eyes widened as Sci-Fi stormed inside. Move, she snapped, tossing him a plasma pistol. Riven caught it instinctively. You're breaking me out, that's a bold move. Shut up and follow me. Riven grinned. You got it, Commander. They ran through the maze of corridors, dodging patrols and slipping through security checkpoints. The emergency hangar was close, just a few more turns. But the moment they reached the final stretch, they stopped cold. General Varthos stood in front of the hangar doors, flanked by a squad of elite enforcers. Sci-Fi's grip tightened on her weapon. Varthos shook his head. You disappoint me, Sci-Fi. She said nothing. He sighed. This can end here. Surrender, hand over the data chip. I will be merciful. Sci-Fi met his gaze, her expression unreadable. Mercy, she scoffed. How many innocent people did you offer mercy before slaughtering them? Varthos's expression darkened. So be it. He raised his hand. The enforcers opened fire. The final stand. Sci-Fi and Riven dove behind cover as plasma bolts scorched the air around them. This is bad, Riven muttered. Sci-Fi ignored him. She focused on the door panel behind Varthos, their only way out. Then she made a split-second decision. She turned to Riven. Can you fly a Valyrian cruiser? Riven blinked. Maybe. She tossed him a key fob. Make that a yes. Before he could argue, she lunged into the open. The move caught everyone off guard. Sci-Fi rolled forward, ducking under a plasma blast, then sprang up and charged straight for Varthos. He barely had time to react before she was on him. Their weapons clashed, energy blades igniting as they locked in brutal combat. Sparks flew as they parried, their movements precise and deadly. "You were our finest warrior," Varthos snarled, "and now you throw it all away for a pathetic human." Sci-fi gritted her teeth. "I throw it away for the truth." She twisted, ducked under his strike, and drove her blade straight through his chest. Varthos gasped, his eyes wide with shock. Sci-fi stepped back as he collapsed, his body hitting the ground with a dull thud. The enforcers hesitated. That was all the time Riven needed. The hangar doors blasted open. A Valyrian cruiser hovered just beyond, its engines roaring. Sci-fi and Riven sprinted for the ramp, plasma fire raining down around them. They barely made it inside before the ship lifted off, soaring into the abyss of space. They were free. For now, the beginning of something more. The stars stretched endlessly before them, the vastness of the universe swallowing them whole. Sci-fi sat in the co-pilot's chair, gripping the stolen data chip tightly. The proof of the Empire's lies, the proof she had betrayed everything she had once fought for. Riven glanced at her. "So what now?" She exhaled slowly. "Now," she turned to him, her silver eyes burning with determination. "Now we start a war. The end, or perhaps just the beginning.